All right, are you ready to hear the secret how to overcome urges so that you can stop overeating and take control of your eating, of your food, of your health, and of your life overall? I'm so stoked. I'm Michele, and this is episode number 59, Overcoming Urges. Welcome to the Cut the Stress Show, formerly the I Cut the Mustard Show, where you'll learn how to stop stressing, stop stress eating, and finally create the body that you can enjoy forever. If you're ready to lighten up, pun intended, then you're in the right place because you shouldn't have to hate creating the body that you love. All right, before we get started, I just wanted to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share these episodes with a friend if you find them helpful. I would really, really appreciate it, and I know they will too. So let's get started on overcoming urges. I wanted to share my current struggle with overeating. Man, it just keeps coming back, and I started to think maybe it's never going to go away. But here's the thing. I figured out how to stop overeating, and it's not using willpower like we talked about a couple episodes ago. You don't need willpower to stop overeating, which is awesome. That's such good news. You just need to be aware of your thoughts and process your emotions, just like we've been talking about. To be freed from overeating, you find the fun, you recognize your thoughts, you edit your beliefs, embrace your emotions, and then define your support. So if you want to hear more about that, go back to episode 55. But we are blazing through. We've already talked about thoughts and emotions. So now I'm going to get really specific about emotions and how they affect our urges. So difference between emotions and urges, and how we can use the tools, the things that we learned about emotions in the last episode to really tackle urges. So here's the thing. I realized I cracked the code and I figured out how to stop overeating. And most of the time it goes really, really well. And then sometimes I fall into a little bit of a slump where I just go unconscious, was what I call it. I stop recognizing my thoughts. I don't care. I don't want to feel my emotions. I just want to eat a snack after dinner every single night. I just want to sit on my butt and I want to eat popcorn and watch a movie and I want to have my brownie or whatever it is. So there's a few weeks where I just kind of get in a slump because who knows, I'm stressed about stuff and I'm just tired of doing the work. And then it takes me a few days or weeks to kind of come back around and say, okay, I guess this has some merit. Maybe I should start managing these urges again. So the good news is, though, that I remember the struggle and I can help you through it a lot better. But I've decided recently that it is possible. I'm going to believe that it is possible not to dip back and forth like I am currently doing, because there is no harm in believing that it is possible, and I'm just going to keep working on it. But until then, it gives me some great insight into the struggle that you're currently having, and it keeps me really close to the struggle. So I'm here to help you. So let's talk about urges. And whenever I'm saying urge, I mean the drive that you have to do something, right? An urge is just this drive that you have to go eat something. That's what we're talking about specifically, but it could apply to other things. It could be your drive to go drink something, your drive to drink coffee, or your drive to go have some alcohol or a beer. It could be your drive to sit in front of the television or play on your phone. So an urge is just that drive to go do something. It's like this physical nudge that you're feeling to go in a certain direction. So today we're going to specifically talk about food. So for me, this powerful drive happens right after dinner because I am having all of these thoughts, right? We know that this urge, it comes from our thoughts. So it's just another emotion. It's this urge to eat. It's just another emotion. So it is often coming from you wanting to avoid another emotion. So usually what happens is I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling unfulfilled, I'm feeling trapped or angry. So then I have the thought about that emotion. I'm feeling angry, so I have a thought about the anger that is going to connect me with food, right? Because this urge is specifically towards food. So my thought is something like, hey, I'm going to feel a lot better if I go eat something. And then I have this urge, this feeling, this urge that says, why don't I go eat something? So for me, actually, I'm not sure if it's emotion or sometimes it starts as a sensation, like you see something. I think it can be both ways. It can come from a thought that says, hey, I have got this emotion that I want to avoid. This food's going to help me do that. Or it might be that you see the chocolate and you start salivating naturally from this habit that you've had, right? But either way, you've got this urge, this physical sensations happening in your body that either comes from your emotions or not, but you're having this feeling that you want to go and eat something. So before we talk about what to do with this urge, let's talk about why it's even a problem. Because sometimes we just jump to conclusions that things are problems, and I think sometimes they're not actually a problem. So let's assess the situation. Is it really a problem that I eat a snack after dinner every single night? For me, yes, it is a problem. It's undermining my goals. And I think for a lot of you, it's undermining your goals of creating a healthy body and losing weight. And because of the thoughts that come after you've eaten, given into this urge, it's undermining your self-confidence and your ability to just go out there and live life, right? So that's why it's a problem. I'm not saying that you're a bad person if you give in to urges or that you absolutely need to get this under control in order to be a good person, right? You can have urges and you can give in to the urges, and it really means nothing about your value as a person. But because here on the Cut the Stress podcast, we are looking for ways to relieve our stress and become better people. We're looking for ways to really live our life to the fullest. So I feel that whenever we're giving into these urges and buffering is what the life coach school calls it, buffering our emotions, when we put something in between us and our emotions so that we're avoiding them, then we're not able to really truly understand ourselves, and we're not able to become the best version of ourselves, right? So that's why urges are a problem, which you probably know. If you're overweight at all because you've been overeating, or if you're feeling bloated, or if you're sick of waking up every morning with an angry stomach or blood sugar spikes or whatever it is, those are the obvious reasons why urges are a problem, right? So urges are a problem. Let's say that you want to solve it. All right. So now let me tell you how to do that. There are 3 ways that we can respond to an urge. The first way is to just give in to it, right? Which we're all really good at that. I think we see some chocolate on the shelf at the grocery store as we walk by because they're so good at putting it right in front of our eyes. We see those chips or the chocolate or whatever it is, and we've got this urge to eat them. So we just grab it and we take it and we buy it and we eat it, right? And I think a lot of the time, the reason that we do this is because in the past, we've tried to use willpower. We feel like I've tried to resist it in the past. I've tried to say no to myself in the past, and that just hasn't worked. So I'm just going to give up. It's too hard. It's not working, right? So I think that's why most of us just choose to give in, because it feels futile, right? It's just easier to eat that thing. But we know from experience that the more we do something, the more that it becomes a habit, and the harder it is to break that habit, right? It becomes more strong. So giving into the urge is not going to help us overcome that. And I want to compare this to a toddler. Let's pretend that your brain is a toddler and it's having this urge. It's saying to you, I really want that candy bar, mommy or daddy. I really, really want that. Okay. And whenever you give in every single time you go to the grocery store, you buy this candy bar for your toddler, then they're going to begin to expect that you're going to give them that candy bar, right? So the second way that we can deal with urges is to resist them. So maybe you decide that you're all done giving into urges. You're ready to really buckle down to create your own diet plan, your own healthy eating lifestyle, and stick with it because you're ready to live life and live a healthy, long life, right? So you've got these goals and you decide urges are not part of the plan. So you resist them instead. So next time you walk by that candy bar at the checkout line, you tell yourself, no, I'm not going to get that. So then your brain, like that toddler, is going to start throwing a fit. Oh man, and it is a big fit too. I mean, you can watch your brain do this. It is a huge fit and it's yelling at you all the time. You really need that. You really need that. You really need that. And it gets stronger. And then your brain's really tricky and it like comes up with these secret reasons why you need the candy bar. Like you've had such a hard day, or it's just one candy bar is not going to make a big difference, or maybe it's even the tricky, hey, willpower doesn't work, right? You've tried this in the past and it doesn't work, right? So you should just give up, stuff like that. So it's really tricky. And in addition to throwing a fit, it's also going to be tricky and try to trick you to get that candy bar. So resisting, like we talked about a couple episodes ago, doesn't work because it's like a toddler and it just gets louder and louder and louder, and it makes it harder and harder to resist. So after a couple days of the toddler screaming at you all day long, then you're just going to give in and give them that candy bar. But what happens when you give in and you give them that candy bar? Then they know, right? That toddler knows that if they yell and scream and make a fit, then they're going to get a candy bar, right? So it doesn't solve your problem either. So the third thing that we can do with urges is not give in, not resist, but start allowing that urge. So this is going to wrap up some of the things that we've talked about and just put them all together. So we talked about emotion and feeling our emotion. So that's part of allowing your urge to be there, right? If this urge is stemming from an emotion, if you're feeling angry, if you're frustrated, if you're feeling trapped and you're going towards the pantry or you're going towards that candy bar because you're having an emotion that's uncomfortable, then you can, step back and do that exercise that we learned last episode to just understand, ask yourself what you're feeling, observe it, name it, describe it, embrace it, and then release it. So you can go through that process or the tapping or whatever it is, and you can move through that emotion. But regardless of whether this urge is coming from an emotion or not, you can embrace it. You can allow it to be there. And it's not resisting. It's not trying to shove it away. It's like letting that toddler just scream, and you can just listen to them and pat them on the head and kind of be separated from it. So I want to share a story with my own toddler that I had several years ago. This is my favorite middle child that I've been talking about recently, but whenever he was about 3 years old, I think he wanted attention, but he had already learned how to put his own shoes on, but he wanted me to do it. And so then he would scream at me to put his shoes on. And if I said no, he would scream a lot harder. And then if I did put his shoes on, then he would start screaming about how I did it wrong. So we had this battle for a while. Several months we were having this battle where he wanted me to put his shoes on, even though I knew he could do it. And then he would get mad at me because I did it wrong. And I was reading a great parenting book at this point, and it was kind of telling me this very same thing. You just allow it to happen and you give them the responsibility and you just let that be his job. So the next time we were getting ready to go out the door, he wanted me to put his shoes on and I said, nope, this is your job from now on. I know you can do it. You've got all the skills of tying your shoe. I know you can do it. You're in charge of tying your shoe. And then he kept screaming and screaming. And I just kept saying to him, I know you're going to be happier if you tie your own shoe, if you put your own shoes on. It wasn't even tying. It was just putting his shoes on. And I just kept saying it over and over. And man, at the beginning, he was so mad and he would still scream, I'm not going to be happier. What are you doing to me? But within 2 or 3 days, we were all done with that fight and he never bothered me about it again. So it was pretty miraculous. So I just want to build a parallel between this story and the urges, because number one, whenever we tell ourselves, no, you can't have that, or no, I'm not going to do it, it's like that toddler, right? Like I said, he's screaming. And then when we do it, when we give in, then there's screaming, right? I told you that he wasn't happy even when I did put his shoes on. Then he was still mad because I did it wrong, right? So this is totally what happens to us whenever we give in to an urge. Let's say that I resist the candy bar for so long, so then my brain is screaming about it. And then I give in, but then my brain still isn't happy because now it's giving me a lecture about how I shouldn't have done that, right? It doesn't make any sense. So that was happening, and that's what's happening with your urges. But the pattern that I used on my son is also the pattern that you can use with your urges. I like to, even honestly, I used this scenario to apply to myself as I was learning how to allow my urges. And it's been one of the strongest, most powerful tools that I've used to allow the urge to be there, but not indulge in the thing that I want to eat. So I tell myself the same thing. Whenever I have an urge, I want to eat that cereal, or I want to make a granola bar or something and eat it after dinner. Then I can sit back and I can tell myself nicely, hey, I know you're going to be happier if you don't eat that, right? So do you see the difference though? It's allowing the urge to be there. So I recommend that you come up with something really nice to say to yourself that feels true, and say, you know what? We could go eat that thing. That's totally fine. We could make that choice, but I know it's not really what you want. And I want to dive into this a little bit deeper in next week's episode and just keep expanding on these ideas. But for now, that is the secret to overcoming urges. And I recommend listening to this podcast a couple of times if it's a problem for you, and really digging in and finding that phrase that you can tell yourself that you believe, that will just give yourself permission to not eat that thing, to really love yourself and allow yourself to have the urge, but not give in to the urge. And again, for me, the phrase that works really great is, I know that you're going to be happier if fill in the blank, right? I know you're going to be happier if we wait till lunch, or I know you're going to be happier if you choose not to eat that right now. And it's really no denying it, but it also doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like I'm restricting myself, and I'm also not giving into it, but I'm just letting it be there. I'm letting my brain have a little hissy fit, and it'll take it about 3 or 4 days to be screaming, and then we're home free, right? Just like it was with my toddler and his shoes. So have a wonderful time with this one, and get ready for next week where we'll expand on this even more. Are you ready to lose weight, take control of food, and create the body and life of your dreams? Then it's time to check out my Stress Freedom Program. In this 12-week program, you'll find the confidence, tools, and support you need to finally get the results you've been looking for. Check it out at coaching.michellevilsek.com.